An MBR research method review is intended to provide practice with an introduction to some research method that is perceived to be particularly useful for practice, but may not be known to them. And this could be a research method that is widely used within the academic community that practice simply has not learned how to apply. But more likely it's going to be something like a analytical technique associated with big data that's just coming out in practice or is just coming out in the academic research area, and is something that we feel could add value to a working manager. An MBR research method review is going to identify a method that is of practical importance to manager. We're not really looking for something that is principally a way of validating theory. We're interested in something that can actually help decision making. We want a summary of the context in which the method might be applied, since there's no method that can be applied everywhere. So we want to have a good idea of where it might be used, provide an outline of how it is applied. This will give the reader a sense of how complicated or simple it would be to use this particular technique, and then identify the strengths and weaknesses of the method. And this is something that could be of interest to other scholarly practitioners, or it could be something that's of interest to practicing managers, but it's probably not something that would be strictly of interest to scholars. In reviewing a research method review submission, the reviewer are typically going to take a look at the potential applicability of the method to management problems. Once again, we're really only interested in research methods that have a practical application. The degree to which managers are likely to be unaware of the method. I wouldn't, for example, recommend an article on multiple regression because that's been around for a long time. Most managers have encountered it in business school, and so as a consequence, it's not likely to add a lot of new value. The degree to which it would be realistic for managers to apply the research method. Here, this is a practical situation. If it requires a supercomputer, the odds are that relatively few managers are going to be able to use this, the same as if it requires a lot of mathematical skills, like a PhD in operations research or something like that. Certainly, expert assistance might be available, and in that case, you'd want to include that. But once again, we don't want something that's so complicated that the manager's eyes are going to glass over when they read it. And of course, the final statement, presentation of findings in a matter likely to engage readers. This is particularly important when you're dealing with something that's methodology oriented, because that stuff can become rather dry very quickly, and we want to try to avoid that. There's really little new about the instructions compared to the other templates. You take the template document, save it under a new name so you don't overwrite your template. Once you're done, you can delete the instructions page. Make sure you use the styles that we have provided for you in the template, and pay attention to the reviewer appendix at the end of the template. This is not going to be published with the article, but this is the place where the reviewer is going to get a clear sense as to whether or not what you're describing is rigorous in its construction. And nearly all the MBR submissions require this reviewer appendix. The research method review cover page is the same as it is for other MBR submissions. You have the title, you have a tagline, which is very important because when your research is published, we're going to use that as a description of the research for the cover of the journal. It will be used in the website where the article is listed, and it may go out over social media such as Twitter feeds or Facebook. So it's something that you really want to capture your potential audience, get them to click on the article so that they actually want to look at its contents. And obviously, you don't want to repeat the title in the tagline if you can avoid it, since you already have a title. The keywords are principally for researchers and potentially managers who are searching for information on the topic at some later date, and having keywords will make it more likely that they'll find your article. The executive summary will appear with the article. This is your 150 to 250 word summary that will essentially capture the reader's interest and kind of summarize what you're reporting. A lot of readers will look at the executive summary, and if the executive summary does not look interesting, they will not read the article. And so you want to spend some time making your executive summary engaging and informative. The research method review could have quite a bit of variation in terms of how the article is structured. Certainly, after the title, you want to begin with a description of the research problem that this method might be applied to. And you try to do this without, of course, repeating the executive summary, which is going to be right over it. Then you can go into a practitioner-focused description of the method itself. We want to make sure that this is accessible to the reader. You can give an overview of the type of analyses that are performed, the type of results that can be expected, and don't hesitate to talk about the type of benefits that you can get when you apply the protocol. Then almost certainly you're going to need some sort of example of a typical protocol that might be applied. So we're looking for some sort of example of what it's like to apply the protocol. And what are the prerequisites? What are the steps involved? What tools do you have to acquire? How expensive are they? What are the results going to look like? And what are the kind of costs and benefits you expect? For this particular type of submission, you probably want to identify sources of information for learning more. It's very unlikely you're going to be able to provide a complete tutorial for any protocol in a 5 to 15 page article. So what you want to do is you want to provide sources of other information and web links if you've got them. And then you can have the conclusions. As I have said for other templates, you want to keep the conclusions self-contained, because some readers are going to go from executive summary to conclusions, and only after reading both those sections will they decide that they actually want to read the rest of the paper. The reviewer appendix for a research method protocol is likely to be relatively short. It will not be published with the article, as is true of all the reviewer appendices, but is going to convince the reviewers that what you've written comes out of a rigorous research process. So what you'll probably start with is a background describing the way through the research method that you chose was identified. Then you can look at the process through which the protocol that you described was developed. This might include information on whether the case study that you used as a demonstration of the protocol was real world or whether it was fictitious. If you have described a typical application of the protocol, how did you come about with that particular procedure? As always, you want to make sure that you have permission for anything you use. This particularly applies to images, since they are often covered by other copyrights.